Hey guys, my name is Ben Parrish. I'm a proud graduate of Elon University. I graduated in 2009. I currently live in Los Angeles, California, and I founded my own production and management company, Parrish Entertainment and Sports, this past January. Today I'm going to discuss with you three key aspects of being an entrepreneur. We're going to discuss networking, we're going to discuss the realities of entering the job market as a freelance employee, and we're also going to discuss what you can expect when you start pitching your own projects to sell your own ideas. Okay, so before I dive into those three aspects, I want to give you a little bit of background on the path that my own career has taken. The summer before my senior year, I participated in the very first Elon in LA program. Fast forward a year, I graduated in May of 2009. I moved to Los Angeles with 7 other individuals that had participated in the LA program the previous summer, and it ultimately took me 9 months of walking my resume into company after company after company into the front door to land a job with the first company that I worked at in the business, Stone & Company Entertainment. But ultimately, it wasn't the resume that got my foot in the door. That previous summer, I had met a senior executive producer of a show that my roommate during Elon in LA was working for as an intern. And it was establishing a relationship with Stuart, that senior executive, and maintaining that relationship in the year that I was back at Elon, which ultimately led to me emailing a company in my resume, having Stuart's name on the resume as a reference, but then also contacting Stuart, asking him if he knew who this company was, if he knew who the producer was. And because we had maintained a relationship, he said, yes, email the assistant back that you were in touch with. Point me out as a reference. And at the end of the day, that's the only reason I got my foot in the door. Had nothing to do with the resume, had nothing to do with having a college degree, had everything to do with a relationship that I had established the previous summer, maintained over the next year plus, that got my foot in the door, got me through the 3-interview process, and landed me my first job in the entertainment industry, working as an executive assistant to the owner of the company, a guy named Scott Stone. The company was Stone & Company Entertainment. They produced The Mole, The Man Show, Legends of the Hidden Temple, Shop Till You Drop, dozens more. Very significant company in the business. And ultimately, I landed there because of a relationship. So I ended up being at Stone & Company for 4.5 years once I got that job. I started out as the owner of the company's assistant. At the very end, over the last 2 years, I was the head of development and production for the entire company. And after 4.5 years, I was approached by a colleague of mine who had been an executive at Bravo, who had left Bravo, founded his own production company, and he approached me to assist with launching the company and ultimately launching and running the unscripted television division, as the company was going to be a English and Spanish language scripted and unscripted television production company, with a little bit of dabbling in the feature film business as well. That company was Campanario Entertainment. I ended up being at Campanario for 4 years. Built that company up. This past year in 2018, we ended up overseeing the launch and production of Netflix's Nailed It in Mexico. We also acquired the life rights to Selena, and we're currently adapting a scripted series for Netflix based on the life rights of Selena. And at the end of 2018, really in the second half, I was approached by an executive from Netflix, and they pulled me aside and they said, look, we've been impressed with what we've seen from you. We have an executive here who's currently overseeing the international and scripted division. Would you be interested in coming in and co-running the international division? So at that moment, it was a pretty amazing thing to get pulled aside, but it was a little weird because it was on stage, on the stage of the set that we were shooting, Nailed It Mexico for them. And from July all the way through October of 2018, I ended up going through a 4-month, 5-round interview process with Netflix. Got to the very end, got through what they call the panel interviews, which is 8 half-hour back-to-back interviews that they stick you in a conference room, and for 4 hours, every half hour on the half hour, a new executive came in from a different division to pepper me with questions. And I got through that. I was told that they would be in contact with my lawyer, and ultimately, in a matter of 2 weeks, the 4-month process went down the drain as Reed Hastings and the senior executives at Netflix decided to take the international division in a different direction. They fired the individual that I was going to be co-running the division with, and at that point, at what was a huge letdown, emotionally, professionally, financially, I landed at a point where I really had to evaluate where I was at professionally. And at that point, I realized that I had been approached by a handful of other companies in the business over the 8-year span or 9-year span at that point, and realized that the only way I was going to continue forward was by exiting Campanario to launch my own company. And so my contract was up. Ultimately, my contract was up that November of 2018. I sat down with the owners of the company. They offered an extension. I passed on the extension, and I filled them in on why I was passing. And I took the month of December to, really just relax, because development can really wear on you. Creating new ideas, pitching all the time. Under 10% of the ideas you develop end up selling in the business. That's a pretty standard clip. So I took the month of December to relax, not think about work, and then hit the ground running in January. And ultimately officially launched my own production company, my own production and management company, this past May. But had the months of January, February, March, April as the lead up months as I got all the ducks in a row, from a legal perspective, from an accounting perspective, from a creative perspective, and also put the town on notice that, hey, I'm no longer a Campanario. I'm on my own. This is what I'm going to be doing. This is what I'm going to be focusing on. And this is what my brand is going to be when it comes to producing content. Every job opportunity I've received in my entire career was not an opportunity that came through applying to a job through a website with my resume and a cover letter. I've had multiple job opportunities come across my plate over the years, and every single time it has been another industry expert, another industry executive in the business that has taken notice of my work. They've noticed my work ethic, they've noticed my quality, they've noticed my ability to manage staffs, and it's been from those experiences that job opportunities have naturally presented themselves. Never once in my career has anyone ever asked me about seeing my diploma. Never once has anyone asked me if I graduated from college. It's truly been all about personal relationships that I've established through the jobs that I've had that have opened up the doors to other opportunities as those opportunities were created and presented themselves. So it's a weird thing to think about, because getting a college degree is a massive success, and it's a massive accomplishment. But at the end of the day, everybody has a degree, and at the end of the day, even individuals who don't have degrees, if they can show that they're more than capable of completing a task, then whoever puts in the best effort, whoever puts the most time into it, whoever can complete the task the best is who is going to get that job. So these next three aspects of being an entrepreneur that I'm going to discuss is about trying to guide you towards putting your best foot forward and portraying yourself in the best light so people will recognize that you are the best individual for the task at hand. Okay, so let's first talk about networking. And networking is not just going to some cocktail hour or some mixer with your business card and shaking somebody's hand and having a 2-minute conversation, or some sort of speed dating networking thing where you sit at each table for 2 or 3 minutes or 5 minutes and you talk to somebody and you say, hey, here's my business card, give me a call. Or let me have your business card and I'll give you a call. Yes, those things exist, and yes, you can meet friends and colleagues and maybe actually meet somebody who could further your career at an event like that. But when I talk about networking, I'm talking about the individuals that are in your life. It's family, it's family friends, it's your friends from home, it's your friends from home, own friends from college who may end up going down the same career path that you're pursuing. It's your friends from Elon. It's professors from Elon. It's other Elon alumni. Everybody that is in your circle, your surrounding circle, is your network that you can tap into professionally. And it doesn't mean calling these people up blindly and saying, hey, I need a job. It's about having an internship or reaching out to a family friend and saying, hey, can I take you to coffee? And whether it's somebody that you met at your internship, or whether it is a family friend, or it's a friend from Elon whose parent might do what you want to pursue professionally, it's about establishing a relationship and then maintaining that relationship to a point where when the time actually does come that you need help with something, you've established an appropriate relationship that allows you to ask for the help that you need. Let's say you have an internship this summer and you finish the internship and the individual that has been your direct boss says to you, hey, had an amazing summer with you, you did some amazing work, stay in touch. Here's 2 scenarios. Scenario A is what I see all the time. I see interns who do a great job, they go back to college, they then don't send an email, send a text, make a phone call, have any communication with any of the executives that they had an interaction with during the year that they were back in school. And then as graduation approaches, April rolls around and mom and dad say, hey, where are you going to get a job? And all of a sudden these individuals are blindly, at this point they don't feel like it's blind, but in reality they're blindly reaching out to these individuals that they worked with the previous summer. Not even to say, hey, graduation's approaching, can we jump on a call? Like, I would love to pick your brain about, what could be the best path for me to pursue. Plenty of individuals, I see it all the time, reach out to these individuals and say, hey, can you help me get a job? Hey, what jobs are going to be open because I'm graduating soon? And 9 times out of 10, because that individual didn't maintain a relationship and the person they reached out to hadn't heard from them in months, they're most likely not even going to hear back from them. Option B is what is the right thing to do, which is when you meet somebody, when you come across somebody professionally that may be able to give you advice or direction down the road, go to Google, set a Google alert for that person's name or set a Google alert for that person's company. And every step of the way, when you get those Google alerts, drop that person a note. Send them a handwritten note. I have a client on the management side of my company who every single meeting he takes, he still writes a handwritten note and puts it in the mail to the individual that he just met with, because it's a personal touch that nobody really partakes in anymore. And the producers, the agents, the networks that he is in business with, they do take notice. That turns their head to notice the extra step, the little detail that he takes to put him above the rest of the people that they're coming across. So when you have an internship, maintain the relationships that you establish that summer through the internship. Because down the road, those are the people that are going to help you get a job. Blindly applying to jobs with a resume and a cover letter, no matter how good you think it is not what is going to land you the first gig. It's going to be contacting the individual that was your supervisor, who you've been in touch with every single month since you left, to say congrats, to say happy birthday, to congratulate them on a career move that they've made. It's going to be those individuals that you maintain a relationship with, that when you reach out to them and say, hey, graduation's approaching, this is what I want to be doing. Can you help me? At that moment, 9 times out of 10, they're gonna respond to you immediately and say, hey, send me a resume. Let me call a few colleagues in the business and see how I can help. Okay, so I'm gonna merge these last 2 aspects into one conversation. I've already touched on a little bit through my own experiences, but what happens now when you're committed to being an entrepreneur, a freelancer, and you have ideas that you want to sell, but how do you establish those ideas, present those ideas, sell the ideas so you can go make money and make a living? It all involves the network aspect that I've already discussed. Most likely, you're not going to be blindly walking into a business to pitch an idea. In the entertainment industry, you cannot get your foot even in the door to a network unless an agency sets the meeting. Because I spent the first 9 years of my career going to drinks, going to lunches, going to dinners, producing shows for executives and for the networks, for the companies that I was working for, I now have the ability to send an email or make a phone call to set a meeting to pitch the ideas that I have. And even then, I mentioned it before, the odds are 1 in every 10 or 1 in every 12 ideas that I develop in the TV industry are gonna sell. And at that point, you get into a development cycle with the networks, of which they've bought your idea to develop, and they've bought 10 other ideas. And of that group of 10, 1 or 2 are actually going to go to series. So it's not just about, first off, it's not just about having one idea. You need to understand that you need to have many ideas. As an entrepreneur, you constantly have to be thinking about what could present itself as a business opportunity. In my phone, I've got a list in my notes that I keep track of. Every time I see an individual, whether it's on TV, whether it's in an article, whether it's something that I come across in person, anytime I have an idea, it goes into my phone, in my notes. So then when I sit down to go through my development slate, which is all the different show ideas that I'm generating, I then add those ideas that I've jotted down, just a word or a sentence or a reminder, or have copied an article into the notes. I add those ideas to my overall development slate that I'm tracking everything on, to then continue developing the whole entire slate forward. I can't just hone in on 3 or 4 things at once. I currently, on my own list, have over 20 projects, of which at the moment, I'm focused on 8 at once of my own original development, and then my own client, who's a feature film director, has 5 projects of his own that we're also currently developing forward to sell. So as an entrepreneur, you can't just be singularly focused. You have to have the ability to manage your time appropriately and develop multiple ideas forward. And then when it comes time to pitch those ideas, then tap into the network of people that you have in your life, that you've established, to pitch those ideas to. And they may not, somebody that you have a relationship with may look at one of your ideas and say, hey, this isn't right for me, but let me call so-and-so because I think this could be a fit for them. All the time, I'm reaching out to professional colleagues and friends from Elon who work in the industry to bounce ideas off of them. I currently have one project that an Elon grad named Sean Hennon is currently attached as a writer, which then once the project is developed forward and we have the pitch materials, which for our end consist of a treatment that outlines the project, that's about 10 to 12 pages. And then we also have a visual deck that then visually outlines the project. And once we have those materials ready, we're going to be taking it into another Elon grad named Bobby Hoppy, who's currently a feature film executive at an independent studio who may be interested in the project that we're putting together. So once again, we have a piece of IP that is relevant for the business. Ultimately, it's my client, who I manage on the feature film side, who found the piece of IP. Through my relationships with Sean Hennon, who's an Elon grad, I brought him and Julio, my client, together. We're developing this project forward, and then one of the individuals that we will present this film to is another Elon grad, Bobby Hoppy, who I lived in Smith freshman year on 3rd floor with, and he's been a friend for over a decade. And ultimately, I called Bobby and I said, hey, I've told you already about my client. You've known Sean for as long as I have, which is about 10 years, and we want to bring this project into you. And in this particular case, it's an Elon grad. It's a couple Elon grads that I've been able to package this project together. It's a project that we feel will fit the slate of development that Bobby's company is working to develop forward. And every single project that I have in development goes through this process of, is the IP worthy of being sold? Who are the individuals that I need to package to present the project to the appropriate buyers? And then once we nail down that package, which can consist of a writer, a director, another production company that may be known for producing that specific type of genre of content. Once I've checked off all these pieces and I have all the creative materials together, then we sit down and say, okay, here's the appropriate buyers, the appropriate networks or the appropriate studios that fit this specific project. And then we collectively put our heads together and say, okay, well, I know so-and-so here, so I'll give them a call. And you know so-and-so at this place, so can you set that meeting? And we both know somebody here, so why don't we hit up both of them, because we can hit both of them at the same time and tag team it and get them both into the meeting, which will hopefully raise our odds of getting the project to move forward and take a step forward. Okay, so the very last thing I'm going to touch on is being humble. When you graduate, you're going to be a skilled individual, but you're going to be stacking up against dozens of other people that are chasing the job that you want. And as you tap your network, as you reach back out to the individuals that you have maintained a relationship with, make sure that you are humble. If they have a job that isn't an exact fit, but gets your foot in the door, then don't pass it up. Because if the job you want still exists at that company, then once you prove yourself, you can transition to the other role. So one last story. My feature film client, Giulio Gambuto, raised $2.1 million last year to launch his own feature film company after finishing his MFA at USC in directing. And his very first film, he shot in Staten Island, where he's from. It's called Team Marco. It'll be a film that comes out next year. And there was a gentleman who had just graduated college, was very well versed and read up on everything that Giulio was doing in the film business, had seen a piece of work that Giulio had written and produced and directed, and sent Giulio this note that said, "Hi, I'm so impressed with everything you've done coming from Staten Island. I have this idea. I would love to executive produce it with you." And that was as far from right as it could have been. Because what the note should have said is, "Hi, sir. I'm incredibly impressed with everything you've done being from Staten Island. I would love to work on your next film as a PA, as a production assistant, and be able to observe everything that goes on a film set and learn from, working on one of your films." And instead he asked to be an executive producer alongside my client. And anybody who has taken the time and put in the blood, sweat, and tears, in the years and the hundreds of hours that it takes to get to the point where he's at in his career, to have a college kid come to you and say, "Hey, I want to be an executive producer," right, shoulder to shoulder with you, you're just going to be laughed at. Be willing to be humble. Be willing to start in the bottom rung and observe from the individuals that came before you that have more experience than you. Because if you do that, you're not only going to learn the good things that they do, you're also going to learn more from what they do wrong, so you never make those mistakes. Your 20s are a time for you to treat it like graduate school. Even if you're not in classes, it's a class in life. So be willing to be humble and be willing to learn from those above you and from those around you, because that's only going to make you look better professionally.